Alright, as mentioned, we go to Daxx. Also, wonder why we still keep the cage at this point. But before that...
So, you've come back to disgrace my training course once again, hmm?
Actually, we were hoping we could just pick up the gadgets and split.
We have a spaceship to catch.
Ha! You slackers are always looking for the easy way out. When you can pass the course, you can have the device.
Okay, Helga.
You do know that the fate of the universe might be on us getting these tools.
As showcased also by previous cutscenes, Helga is more than okay of agreeing with Quark. Anyway, returning from the second game, there you go, is basically a combination of the hypershot and I keep forgetting the item that basically energizes the construct stuff.
Hey, it's like the Ender Beams from Sonic Boom.
Also, we have again another new hacking tool. In this case, okay, I don't remember what it's called, but there was this very old DOS game that has basically the same kind of structure. Basically, glowing objects will arrive from the bottom to the top. You need to basically rotate your scope and send the packets of data, in this case, to defeat the red one and acquire the green one. Acquire all of them to fill in the bar on the right and you're good to go. But let just one of the red one get on the top and you need to start over. Again, much better than the previous games. It can give you a bit of, you know, motion sickness, but I argue it's fine for the most part. The blue barrier basically just there to literally be an obstacle that you cannot bypass via the lasers or acquire, like the green dots. So basically it's just there to tell you, be forewarned, some shit is about to happen afterward. And it usually comes in potential waves of 2 or 3 rounds. So don't worry, if you actually fuck up in, say, round 2, you just need to start round 2, you don't have to restart from the beginning. I like the idea of combining the swing shot with the energy construct gadget, so at the very least you don't have to deal with, you know, switching both of them all the time. So that was a nice, you know, gesture from the devs. Especially also because, as you can see, you don't have to re-equip manually them all the time. So.
The blue defenses are indestructible.
Oh, very nice.
The only thing is that, as you can see, well, here, there is still no real dedicated music to hacking. I get it that it's probably because, you know, they want to make sure that your concentration is at the max for these, but I don't know, something cool as, you know, atmospheric, you know, hacking stuff could have worked.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you noticed about if one of the green, you know, particles actually arrives on top, nothing really happens. So if you're really in a pinch, you know, prioritize destroying the red ones because, you know, the green ones will not actually harm you. Best to just lose one, you know, them for the sake of surviving and try again. You also notice that the swing shots, you know, dots are all green this time around instead of being differentiating from, you know, yellow and green. Again, it's all about basically, you know, streamlining the whole process. In previous games, they were done so in a way to make you recognize the different actions you could perform with a swing shot. But at this point, you're basically probably familiar with the tool enough that you can just, you know, adapt to the animation that Ratchet is having when he casted in, you know, the web, basically. And again, you can potentially see that as, you know, a basis that they, you know, ulteriorly developed on for the swinging in the 3 Spider-Man games. Again, later hacking section obviously will become more ball-busting, but compared to the ones to both styles of 2, this is really just, you know, more, at the very least to me, more manageable. I can imagine, you know, it might still not be very optimal to, you know, to people who need to have, you know, very sharp reflexes, you know, but I don't know, I think, there we go. But compared to the two, I'd rather take these. Anyway, you get a titanium bolt for your efforts.
Thank you.
Alrighty, we'll just take those gadgets and be on our way.
Oh yeah, the little man is cocky now. Ho, ho, ho.
I mean, he's
You
only
fight for the
saved
Elgon
2
wrestling
galaxies
match,
at this
hmm?
point.
We'll see how cocky you are, twisted up like a wet noodle.
Maybe
Yeah,
next time.
maybe next time.
Pansies.
Alright, now we can actually go to Daxx.
Lovely.
I don't think I have enough bolts for the armor. I forgot. Oh no, I do. There you go, the adamantine armor. Once again, another one of my favorite, and yes, it's partially because it's orange. Again, color bias and all. It's your medium type of, armor. You will get better ones later, even outside the too edgy for you, ultimate armor. So this is just, in-between stuff.
By the time of Rift Apart, I guess even the devs figured that orange should be what Ratchet wears by default.
Although it's not more of an armor, it's just, a mechanic like suit, jumper suit, more than anything. At least the standard
the color
one.
scheme, at least.
There we go.
I think the idea also is like, technically Rift Apart isn't with us at war as much as this one, so that's why it's more of a jumpsuit as opposed to armor.
Well, even in the future saga, Ratchet starts with that. That's why he was chosen as his default outfit for PlayStation Stars Battle Royale. So.
I've always found it interesting. Now, again, this is probably thanks to the fact that Insomniac were still the ones who did the Future series, but it's funny how in this case, it's technically not the first era. Like, typically in a crossover...
Okay, let me just
like...
talk about this weapon. I forgot its name. It deploys a shield that's basically... Okay, it's not completely identical, but it has a similar function to the attack reflector move from Urien from Street Fighter 3, if that makes any sense. Its intended use is to absorb projectiles, but you can potentially have enemies bounce into it if you want. Go on, Jova.
But yeah, like, typically in big crossovers, it's usually the first era outfit or the current one that they go with, and I guess technically that was the current, but, like, typically, in my view, this is probably due to the trend that usually after the first 3 games of a series, the original creator sort of steps off and then we get a new one in, but Ratchet never got that, so I guess in a way it makes sense that they went with that look for him, and I guess also to give him credit, unlike a lot of other series, Ratchet did not really have a set look over
well, the one of the
course
first game
all 3
arguably
of the
counts.
original
In
games.
Sight Matters, he uses that as default, and the armor that you acquire there uses the Mega Man X structure of being in pieces that you have to put together to have, a unique effect, basically. But otherwise, his major default outfit is the one from the first game, probably because, it allows the devs to, recycle assets in a better way.
Although you gotta admit, it's pretty funny that he went from being shirtless to suddenly fully decked out in the second game. Although to be fair, that was explained that
yeah, he went with
it
the
was
intensive
the
training,
company that
the commando training, basically.
Yeah, so I'll give it that. At least they didn't open up with him suddenly in the different outfit, which some game series do for weird reasons.
Also, I forgot the weapon with the lightning bolt that acquires multiple targets is called Hydra, not Viper. Also acquired in the meantime also a sniper rifle. It's very effective, and yes, headshots are pretty reliable in this, even if sometimes it might not insta-kill one of the bigger enemies, but they can two-shot the bigger ones. So again, it's kind of impressive that the console could manage to have this kind of precision. Although from what I understand, the very first major case of, scope to a rifle that allows something similar to a true sniper experience complete with headshot counting is from a LucasArts game that tried to be like Doom in a Western game called I forgot the name, like Outlaws, I think that's what it's called. I'll have to look up into it. Anyway, if I recall correctly, you get the grind boots with these. Oh no, sorry, the charge boots, they are back from the second game. If I recall correctly, they're still not very optimal. Yeah, still just, you know, barging in, you know, careening you towards the next pitfall to fall into, so no thanks. Again, it's one of those things where the future trilogy definitely would improve. They would even have a story reason to have the powered up version of those. So... As you can see, there are at least two more things to do. The charge boots were really just an optional. So for that we went into the outskirts of the facility, while instead now we are in the, well, you know, outer parts of the building, and we're about to get in. And yeah, the lava gun is still that reliable. You only need to really watch out of the bigger robots. I don't think it's mentioned. Well, yeah, it should be ideally still, you know, all creations of Nefarious because the facility is doing stuff for him. But obviously they're not yet on the level of, you know, mounting a full-scale invasion. Kind of like how the second game tried to have the Daxx for less as a variation for, you know, different enemy variety that you could fight, and not just, you know, the enemies or the Megacorp employees. And as you can see, they even have some level of, you know, shooter tactics, like getting behind cover, you know, and trying to snipe you from far. So again, you can see definitely also a bit of an evolution of enemy AI instead of charging you, you know, blatantly and standing in the open while getting riddled with bullets. And also this is a bit of a knack effect, like the fact that some enemies might get, you know, weapons that, you know, you never get to have, and they might tempt you to think they're actually cooler than the one that you have. Unlike Neck, however, I argue that the arsenal that's currently at your disposal, you know, is good enough to compensate that. So, you know, I can live with that.
Exactly.
Although, as you know, as said, ice is still nice, and I can agree with that.
Shame the power-up was lame. Okay, the sequel finally let the power-up do something, but the fact it took until a sequel for them to realize, hey,
all while having the characters look terrible as a result.
Like, that's the thing with Knack 1 and 2. 2 definitely improves stuff overall, but it also feels like it downgrades on some stuff too, weirdly enough.
And yet I still want to have a closure on that goddamn story.
Oh, I absolutely get where you're coming from. Like, even if a story is bad, I prefer to at least see it properly concluded instead of just cynically left off with a cliffhanger.
Shit like Bubsy, I don't really care about because the game themselves do not even try. They really have basically self-contained stories, and the next game is like, oh, by the way, the Woolies returned again. Sorry, you know.
Well, that's the ironic thing. Technically, Bubsy 3D did end on quite a massive cliffhanger, which I guess the sequel... I assume that was the sequel trying to address the Woolies finally invading
Not
Earth?
really,
I don't know.
Because it almost acts like Bubsy 3D never happened, because, you know, Bubsy is like, you know, just chilling, and then the Woolies suddenly stole all the yard balls.
I mean, to be fair, it does technically start with them crashing into his place, so it could still be after 3D.
Again, my point is that I don't particularly care about Bubsy's continuity because the games themselves clearly do not do a good job, you know, in making something that will be even remotely interesting to follow. So
that is true.
But even with something as flawed as Knack, I kinda have the just amount of, you know, right of, you know, fucks to give that I would want to at least have some level of closure with that. And I don't mean for the franchise to go on forever like I normally would for other circumstances. Just end the story, you know, with Knack's origin, so we can all be happy, you know, and go home, and Mark certainly can feel proud of himself for that.
You know the sad thing is, before Knack 2, one could argue that, okay, I definitely believe Mark was not necessarily planning for a sequel. Remember, if anything, it was more so Japan Studio who were begging for a sequel. So
as we know also from
something to
different
do.
interviews that, shed lights at the time, there was quite a lot of pushing on basically all the Japanese staff members, not just Japan Studio, but all other people, including Shuei Yoshida himself. Yeah, I can imagine one of the things was like, let's try to, get a job that can showcase what we can do, and hopefully the public, will give us support as a result. Again,
But yeah.
shame it didn't happen, but it's unfortunate all these things got learned eventually only later.
But yeah, the sad thing is, it seemed like even Mark was okay with just ending things on Knack because, look, Knack, good, bad, whatever way you see it, at least the first Knack game just ended conclusively enough. Like, we ended up on things, and we didn't question what Knack was. Well, okay, to be fair, we more or less acknowledged that, yes, he was made from a mystical MacGuffin. Boom, that was it. It's just that Knack 2 suddenly had to go, oh, but wait, what really is Knack? And then go into this, and then literally end off on the plot going, well, we don't still know what Knack is, but tune in for the next game. It's absolutely going to explain it.
Also, the first game still had some things left open, like obviously the war with the goblins clearly not being over, for example, with the leaders still be their leaders still be around, which is still also happening with 2. But my point is that, one, while, not having this kind of super cliffhanger, still was clearly trying to just, end on a note that would, allow sequels to happen,
Which I guess, to be fair, Knack 2 did wrap up the goblins with some massive genocide.
Well, the leader still survived of that, so my guess is that they wanted to have him...
I know, like, last we see him, he's getting crushed by the mech. Like, I think...
I thought it was just falling off, kind of like what Robotnik did in the Sonic 2 movie. But then again, it's been a while since we did Knack 2.
Now, last I recall, as far as we know, he was given a scene where he could maybe survive, but until otherwise is said, he did. Especially since, the true bad guys, Machination, targeted all goblins on a genetic level, which I believe wiped them out anyway.
Well, my point also is that there's also the fact that, Knack actually has been referenced quite a couple of times. Again, we already observed that in Astro's Playroom, of course, but Rift Apart also has a passing reference to that, like I also mentioned in one of the previous games run. And we also have a VIP robot in Astrobot for that. Again, for reference, stuff like the Order 1986 did not get that pleasure, so that has to count for something.
Well, to be fair, the Order didn't get a bot in Astro's Playroom, but yeah, they didn't.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, they didn't. Well, too, we're still not done. Maybe they're saving it. I mean, the tone only got added recently, so.
Okay, if I'm to be fair, Knack was definitely better than Order 1886. I know that's not saying much.
Yeah,
but
that's not saying much because, again, the key word for the being a VIP robot in Astro is just, qualification of being a part of PlayStation history, no matter what you did. Which, again, I appreciate because, it's a kind of, unbiased way of, recognizing history, bad and good, which is, again, a lot of the distinct kind of mentality, crossover mentality that stuff like, for example, Dissidia had, which I appreciate.
That's why
the point I was getting at is, like, with Knack, yes, Knack was bad, but I never got the inkling that Sony were like, oh god, this should have never existed. So I'm not too surprised that they're okay with it getting referenced. It's more a case of, well, Knack came, he technically outsold Super Mario 3D World for a week, and that was enough for them to call it a Mario killer, but I digress. Like, I got a sense that Sony are in some senses proud of Knack. Now, obviously not proud enough of Knack 2, that game absolutely bombed, but again, now Order 1886, I can see Sony being embarrassed about to the point of going, god, this should have never existed, because that game had everything. A cliffhanger, supposedly big values and everything, but no, they just put the brakes on it because the reception, the reputation, everything about it was that bad. Probably doesn't help that it encompassed a lot of what people didn't like about Sony at the time, that being turning their games into basically little better than cinematic movies, because that game is incredibly scripted. With a story that is horrendous, mind you, and again, has the goal to end on a cliffhanger going, yep, this game's gonna sell so much that you're gonna want a whole series about this.
Yeah,
Although to be fair, I would still say that the Fairfence Rev series still holds the #1 cake of doing not only not solving its plot, its sequel hook, but putting in a new one at the end. With
It goes twice, because remember, the very original Fairy Fence Rev didn't have that cliffhanger. It was the re-release they added the cliffhanger in.
This terminal should give us high-level access to all of Nefarious's project files. I found
Ew,
something.
what's on his search history?
I am afraid
That's
it does
a
not
big
look
ball.
good.
The
Bio-obliterator?
bio-obliterator.
Huh.
I'm sure it's not important.
What exactly does it do?
That information has been deleted.
Uh-oh. Well, where is this thing?
Location unknown. However, a large transport vessel left this facility yesterday.
So that's totally
It
not
was
the
headed
Death
for the
Star.
Obani
Well,
moon system.
we do have a
The Obani
general
moons,
idea
huh?
where it might
Well,
have
we
gone.
better check it out.
so That's where we need to go, to the Obani moons. But before that, we will continue exploring. Go on, Pedro.
Thank you for your cooperation.
No, that is true. Like, what boggles my mind, like Theo saying, like it should be about celebrating history regardless of where you think the game is good or bad, right? What baffles me, indeed, is the fact that in Astrobot we have Jodie, we have Connor from Detroit Become Human, but nobody from Heavy Rain, which is the most.
You do get an origami that tells you that you shouldn't really push the person who made it, but that's it.
Like there's an origami figure that you get that, but no actual bot.
Okay, we do know from interviews one thing, because during development it was showcased a couple, concept arts, which included a couple of VIP bots that did not make the cut. Among those was Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal, which is kind of odd because Twisted Metal does have a lasting, legacy for PlayStation. And the reason...
Definitely.
So Nicolas Douche, as I jokingly like to call, in the interview really mentioned that the only reason was cut away was because they thought that the image of Killer Clown with flaming head might not being adapted for the PEGI rating that they were aiming at, which I guess, but Twisted Metal has other characters you can use, buddy. Like, use Calypso. For fuck's sake.
Was their argument that, well, let's be honest, Sweet Tooth's the only one people will recognize from that game?
I don't know, and we'll have to see. Like Pedro said, it ain't over until it's over. But again, my point being, they do have some level of criteria in what they decide to put in and did not. Obviously, as we, I think we talked about in one of the State of Plays or something, that the whole thing about Square Enix was that, it depended on the budget they were asking. This is why we only got fucking Daxx. So eventually, but anyway, in the meantime, next boss fight, these cloaking ship like it's a fucking Klingon bird of prey. It's just a ship out of 10, basically. Again, shooting until it dies, gone.
The thing is, you could very easily preserve the E rating for slash PEGI 3, I guess. I forgot what rating it has over here. PEGI 3, probably PEGI 6. But the point is, you could easily preserve the rating for all ages in Astrobot by just having Ethan. Hell, you could have it so that Ethan is looking at the origami one of the origami figures, and that's it. That would not really...
Jason, because me.
Yeah, you could have him. Yeah, well, that would be a bit difficult because the bots don't actually. Well, okay, they technically form words. I guess you could technically have them.
Some of them
Jason
do have recycled. Not all of them, but a few of them do have some recycled voice clips. So that's why I made that apology.
Yeah. You could easily just have. Hell, you don't even have to have him hold anything. You can just have an Ethan bot run around the crash site yelling, Jason, Jason, there you go. That will not raise the rating at all. That would still, like, nobody's aware.
Unless Pedro, I wonder if the case was instead that the David Cage pods were basically mandated and, you know, Team Azov included them more reluctantly. I don't know.
That would not okay, that wouldn't surprise me entirely, but I'm curious, like, okay, I know Quantic Dream's reputation are in the toilet among their peers. I mean, their games still sell, but it's kind of in the sense where, you know, if they actually tried to make a movie, it would fail, basically. But regardless, though, how do other devs regard Quantic Dream?
It depends on who you ask.
After the scandal with David Cage himself, I would argue not very well.
Check it out. Looks like somebody's a big fan of Courtney Gears.
Courtney who?
Come on, remember that bombshell handing out prizes on Annihilation Nation?
Ratchet!
Yes. The specifications
You're
were
planning to get
remarkable.
mechanical with it, I
well,
see.
she's not the hottest pop star in the galaxy because of her singing.
That is odd. It appears this computer was recently used to edit one of her music videos.
Oh, let's watch it. I mean, you know, it may contain a...
Sure, Ratchet, sure.
Sure.
Alright, does anyone remember that Simpsons episode where Bart and some of the other kids are being into a boy band that secretly tells people to join the Navy?
Yeah!
Was that one where... Is that the one where there's... Is that also the one where, they're just miming to a song?
I think that's that, but the point is
and
that...
then they get exposed at the end.
The point is that the Courtney Gears music video is, again, sensationalism on TV satire, entirely about basically says, you know, fuck organic lives.
No propaganda hidden here whatsoever, gentlemen.
I can't believe these music videos became so political.
Ratchet and
God.
Clank has gone political, 0 out of 10.
You know, Dwibs, you would not believe... You would not believe how
Gears
hot
may be in league
the
with
politics
Dr.
got with
Nefarious.
music videos
Yeah,
around
who
the
knew?
time of the
She
War
always
on
seemed so sweet
Terror.
and innocent in her videos.
I lived through
Well,
some of them.
except for that one.
Oh, I even lived through that really
Ratchet, what are you
ill-advised-
doing?
Oh
might
my
get information
god,
of what Nefarious
Ratchet,
is
put that ass
planning.
away. Kids are watching.
Right. And if
I
we
don't know
win that
what it
grand
was
prize on
exactly, but there was
Annihilation
this
Nation,
really...
we'll
I
get
also
another
knew
chance
but
to
there was
talk
this
to her.
really ill-advised Madonna one where she was throwing grenades all over the place.
Anyway, the point is that we need to get back to Annihilation Nation and convince Courtney Gears to give us an appointment. Go on, Pedro.
Okay, like you can even you can even say that it's maybe Quantic Dream / David Cage himself, because we all know David Cage hates platformers, so I'm sure he probably doesn't like Astrobot. The thing is, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and The Trouble Come Human are Sony IPs, so Sony doesn't need his permission to
Pretty
put
much,
references in there. So Nicolas Doucet and his team can very well put those bots in there if they want to.
Maybe that's it, maybe I want to.
Like I said, like I suggested, maybe they were actually mandated instead by Sony, and they just reluctantly agree. Which, to be fair, they still did a good enough job with both Connor and Jodie and Aiden. So
Sure. I
wonder.
honestly doubt, because remember, Nicholas is like committed to celebrating as much as he can. I seriously doubt he decided to, for whatever reason, blacklist this one game. These three games, sorry.
anyway, in the meantime, Skid
Hi,
or
Skid.
Shadow Dude.
Can we talk to Sasha?
Send
Sasha
us a
and Quark are
message.
meeting with the president, man. They left me in charge of the ship.
What? I mean, I see. Well, is Al there?
He's out to lunch
Helga?
in the sauna.
Quark's monkey, perhaps.
Just tell Sasha that Clank and I are checking out a lead on the Obani moons.
The Obani moons? Sounds like you guys could use some backup.
Kid,
I'll grab my
no.
gear and meet you there.
No.
Well, at least he's trying to help, I guess. That has to amount for something.
That means we'll have to get there. If I recall correctly, I don't remember if I get there immediately or do I go to Annihilation Nation.
In the credits, sorry.
No, go on.
In the credits of Astrobot, when they start crediting their partners, they do list Quantic Dream. So Quantic
Well,
Dream
they
apparently.
have to.
Again,
Yeah.
Tavia, and you know, again, at the cost of sounding so cynical, I do wonder how much that is the same way Spider-Man No Way Home thanks Javier Rad.
Okay, like, I mean, to be fair, I mean, like, well, if there are Quantic Dream characters in there, they would have to credit Quantic Dream whether they wanted to or not, legally.
It's one of those things where, look, it's kind of like, basically, those IP, it's weird, like, cause I'm not really convinced that Nicholas and his team, for whatever reason, decide to blacklist Quantic Dream's games. It would feel very weird to.
Let me put it
yes,
this way,
I
wouldn't go really that far, Pedro, but I would say maybe it was a case of having, you know, pinning down to choose maybe a few of them, and they were not given a choice, but, you know, having to say, oh, you have to choose between this and this other, and they just prefer that. Again, as many people quoted, you know, even if they might told you otherwise, yes, your parents do have favorites between you and your siblings.
Did Indigo Prophecy get anything?
No, because that's an Atari IP.
Indigo Prophecy was a multiplat.
Again,
I know that it's an Atari one.
Okay,
I know that it's an
so technically, if it's not, it's owned internally by Quantic Dream themselves. And keep in mind, Heavy Rain itself might have not been a Sony IP because originally it was supposed to be a PC exclusive. It basically had a sort of a thing like LA Noire, where the development stalled for a very long time, and when it resurfaced, it was actually labeled instead as a PS3 exclusive published by Sony themselves.
Yeah, I know that it's an Atari IP, but you know, it wouldn't be the first third-party representation that was in Astrobot, which is, you know, that's why I was wondering.
Mind you,
the thing is, unlike Heavy Rain and the other ones, Indigo Prophecy doesn't really have anything in terms of, like, it's not really known for being connected to PlayStation in any meaningful way, like Final Fantasy is.
The PS2 version is not really the one that people really remember the most, you know, if you kids are wondering, you know, in terms of different versions of it.
Yeah, the game originally, back in 2005, came out on OG Xbox, PS2, and PC. It didn't come out on GameCube because David Cage hates Nintendo. No, I'm not kidding. He does. I'm not kidding. He does.
But I wanted the main character for Smash. How could this be?
Oh no! Now I won't be able to have Jody or Ethan or Connor in the next Smash Brothers. How will I ever cope?
I mean, I could see Connor. You know, would be fun for a bullshit, but go on, Pedro.
No, it's weird. I mean, I'm glad Connor is in Astrobot because Connor is the best character in Detroit anyway. So.
They also included Aiden along with Jody in Astrobot, didn't they?
Yes, if you attack Jody, Aiden will make sure with the cake. Anyway, we're getting another. We do get another Hall of the comic given by Chrono Gears, which you know, it both gives us a chance to see more Clark's history. And to talk with Chrono Gears.
It is an honor
I
for
forgot
you to
who
meet
she's
me.
voiced
To
by.
meet you, Miss Gears. Hi. Hi.
Yeah, the thing, Ratchet, again, Ratchet, the music video shouldn't tell you anything. Chrono Gears is kind of racist.
I've got a few secrets of my own that
might
need your special investigation.
Yes, I will report your concerns.
I get sympathy for a woman that, you know, feels very unreachable to you, but buddy, trust me, she's not worth it.
You know, I'd do anything to play a part in one of your Hollow films.
That could be arranged, Miss Gears, if you are willing to provide information on the whereabouts of Dr. Nefarious.
Dr. Nefarious? You have been busy, haven't you? You just get me that part, and I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Excellent. Meet me at Hollow Star Studios.
Okay then. Small side note that I remember noticing from the making of video from the previous game. The voice direction made a point to tell David Kay that Clank does not use contraction, you know, in reading voice lines because, you know, I have to sound robotic. But the animation team makes sure to still animate his face to be very expressive nonetheless. I guess that's part of the joke.
Anyway, as for who her voice actress is in this game, it's Melissa Disney.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that checks out. Anyway, tuning for the next part where we go to the Obani Moon. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.